Hello, I'm Scott Davis. Welcome to New World Birth. This is the weekly neutrino forecast for July 5th to July 11th of 2015. And on July 5th, we've got the sun. You can see it denoted here by the black circle with a dot in it. It's in Cancer, and it's also in the 39th hexagram. And on the outside of the wheel, we see the chop mark for the 39th hexagram, numbered from bottom to top. The 39 goes yin, yin, yang. Yin, yang, yin. And then the 39th hexagram is mapped to an opening in an energy channel called a gate. And right here is the 39th gate of the Provocateur, obstruction, the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. Located in the root center in an individual energy path in the knowing circuit called the channel of emoting, a design of moodiness that connects to its harmonic, the 55th gate of spirit, abundance. Abundance is strictly a question of spirit, and I found human design to be amazingly accurate in describing the person I use as my primary tool when I provide readings. And we've got the following activated gates on July 5th. We've got the sun is in the 39th gate with the earth in the 38th gate. The north node is in the 18th gate. The south node is in the 17th gate. Mercury is in the 12th gate. Venus is in the 4th gate. Mars is in the 52nd gate. Jupiter is also in the 4th gate with Venus. We've got Saturn retrograde in the 14th gate. Uranus is in the 51st gate. Neptune is retrograde in the 37th gate. And Pluto is retrograde and in the 38th gate along with the Earth. So obviously not every gate activation forms a channel, but this information can be very helpful if you know your own human design chart, because some of these transits will form channels with potentials in your personal body graph. So basically, the neutrino forecast is just a weather report, and no matter what the weather, your individual strategy and authority is the correct choice to have an authentic experience regardless of the program. As Ra Uru said, whatever the weather is going to be, you have your neutrino umbrella. As long as you're experimenting with your strategy and authority, the weather is for your pleasure. And as we begin the week, we've got no channel definitions due to the transit field. We're going to be looking at the sun's Ravi Ching line values daily because 70% of the neutrinos we receive come from the sun. And as Ross said in Living with the Program, the lines of the day, when talking about these daily shifts of line values, he said we can always take advantage of the themes of the day. Of course, if your strategy and authority does not lead you in that direction, you can always notice how the program is affecting others in your environment. Excuse me. So let's get started. On July 5th, the sun is in the fourth line of the 39. So it's in the opportunist line of the 39. And the sun's detrimented in the fourth line of the 39th hexagram. It's described as temperance, careful evaluation and assessment before taking action. Detrimented the faulty belief that willpower alone can overcome any obstacle regardless of circumstances. The energy to provoke that ignores circumstances. And fourth line days, we're in the upper part, the upper trigram, so it's more transpersonal with the themes of friendship, companionship, and networking. But then later on the 5th, the sun moves into the 5th line, up into the heretical 5th line of the 39th hexagram. The shift happens at 10:08 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So you want to convert that to your local time zone. The sun in the 39.5 is described as single-mindedness, the rare ability not to overcome but to bypass obstacles. Exalted, the imagination to establish new patterns that make obstacles irrelevant. The imaginative energy to provoke through bypassing obstacles. Detrimented, simple hard-headedness. Though less exalted, it often results in success and gathers support rather than by its very determination. the energy to provoke through hard-headedness. The fifth line, when we talk about the fifth line, as I've said before, really the key thing to understand about the fifth line is projection. And the projection goes from positive to negative. Positive, they could do it. They'd be great at it. They're the perfect person for whatever. And then if the person doesn't do it, can't do it, doesn't want to do it, for whatever reason they don't meet that expectation, that's when the negative projection comes in. That's when the punishment comes in. That's when the heretic is tied to the stake. So this has qualities of being a day of suspicion, but also of universalization, where something leaks out like a virus. It could be a YouTube video or a Facebook post that gets millions of viewings. There's also people talk about paranoia being associated with the fifth line. As I'd like to say, it's only paranoia when they're not out to get you. And if they're projecting on you and you're not meeting their expectations, they often are out to get you. So that obviously impacts the nature of relationships. Seduction is also a theme of the fifth line day. Also on the fifth, Venus moves out of the fourth hexagram, leaving Jupiter behind and into the 29. Down here in the sacral center. In human design, Venus is very powerful and deeply misunderstood, according to Ra. It brings morality, natural law in which we deal with the other and the consequences of the world around us. And what disturbs you on a moral level, your design and personality Venuses tell you about the moral dilemma that you're going to work with in your life. And that if you don't act with moral clarity, Ra's talked about Venus being unkind in this retribution. In the 29, Venus is in the gate of saying yes, the abysmal, the deep within the deep. Persistence despite difficulties has inevitable rewards. Venus is in the first line of the 29, which is the draftee, the ability to adapt to struggle when necessary, but not as a permanent state. Exalted, the innate nature to apply energy in times of war and peace. The power to persevere when necessary, but not generally. Detrimented, a deep impressionability whose mark from times of struggle may make return to normal conditions extremely difficult. Hesitation in making commitments based on past experiences. On the 6th, the Sun then moves up into the 6th line of the 39th hexagram at 9:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 39/6 is the troubleshooter, the gift of solving problems, exalted practicality and the ability to guide and nurture others, the energy to provoke others by attempting to solve their problems. Detrimented, ego dominance that generally abuses this gift for self-aggrandizement and personal ambition rather than the benefit of others. The emotional drive to dominate that provokes others. And in the 6th line, we're up in the role model line, up on the roof of the hexagram. When you think about being on the roof of a building, we tend not to look at what we're standing on as much as what's going on around the building, what's going on in the neighborhood, what's down the road. Those types of things are qualities of that we would see with the 6th line. Ra talked about there being a real lack of focus on what's going on around you because folks are looking beyond their immediate environment. He said that, not to get stuck with your head in the clouds because you'll end up with something banging into your shins. And that, like with 3rd line days, there are certain dangers of not seeing a car coming, perhaps not seeing a bill coming, things of that nature. On the 7th, the Sun then moves from the 39th hexagram and into the 53. And with that movement, the Earth moves out of the 38, leaving Pluto behind and into the 54. So, all right. So the Earth in the 54 is it's in the gate of ambition, the Marian maiden, interaction in its mundane and social context, but also one's mystical and cosmic relationships. This shift happens at 9:21 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, with the sun in the 53rd gate of beginnings, development. Development has a structured progression that is both steadfast and enduring. And the sun is in the first line of the 53, and it's described as accumulation, exalted, the dissolution of old forms, but not at the expense of valued components that will be strained and transformed. The pressure to begin something new, not from scratch, but based on the foundation of the old. Detrimented development hampered by criticism and the tendency to withdraw rather than make use of these experiences. The difficulty in starting something new because of the criticism that accompanied the old. And when the sun is in the first, second, third lines, we're in the lower trigram. This energy of the lower trigram is when people are more absorbed in their own processes, more looking inward. And in the first line, in the investigative line, the themes are of the first line are fear or anxiety that needs to be investigated. It's a day to study, not to act. It's a day to look into things, not to jump. It's a good day to deal with things you don't understand, can't make sense of, or don't know. And then also on the 7th, Mercury moves from the 12 to the 15. And Mercury in mythology is the messenger of the gods. And Ra talked about that this is about communication, expansion of human consciousness through communication, not just as words, but also through music. And what do we need to communicate in life? Well, we communicate the message of our design Mercury through the medium of our personality Mercury. And what might be communicated when Mercury is in the 15? Well, I'd expect to hear people talk about their love or hatred of humanity. This is the gate of extremes, modesty, the quality of behavior which expresses the proper balance between extremes. And Mercury is in the first line of the 15, which is duty, the ability to confront any challenge without expectations, exalted harmonic relationships with give support to the fulfillment of any task, the capacity of the self to confront any challenge through extreme and harmonic relationships, detrimented alienation engendered through exaggerated claims, the capacity of the self to alienate others through extremes. Excuse me. On the 8th, the sun then moves out of the investigative line into the hermit line, the second line of the 53 at 8:57 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The sun in the 53-2 is described as momentum. Success breeds success. Exalted, the projection of early success nurtures further achievement. The pressure to start something new based on past success. Detrimented, a tendency with early success to haste and imprudent action. The pressure based on success to be impatient for something new. And second line days, in the hermit line, people are waiting for something. They're waiting to be called, particularly called for their natural talents. People can be stuck in their own trip. It's really not a great day to have a party because people would rather stay home under the influence of the hermit. Also, on the 8th, Mars moves from the 52 and into the 39. And so Mars is in the gate of the Provocateur, obstruction, the value of obstruction in provoking analysis, assessment, and reevaluation. Mars is exalted in the first line of the 39, as disengagement exalted the determination when confronted by obstacles to withdraw, but only temporarily, the energy to provoke by refusing to confront obstacles. And Ra talked about Mars being an extraordinary immature energy resource that lacks refinement and is subject to outbursts. And Mars represents the warrior archetype in the mythology. And by following our strategy and authority, we slowly refine the energy of our design and personality Mars from immaturity to wisdom. And on the 9th, the Sun then moves into the third line of the 53 at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 53-3 is practicality exalted in its most natural position, the concentration on avoiding conflict to ensure projection and continued development, the pressure to eliminate conflict in order to develop. Detrimented, the unconscious provoking of conflict that logically threatens security and development. The energy that provokes conflict threatens development. And third line days, this is the line of the martyr. We're talking about a trial and error process of bonds made and broken, a system of discovery by figuring out what doesn't work. Things bump into us under that third line energy, so be careful on the roads, be careful of swinging doors, swinging elbows. It might be a day when you have bonds made and broken. There's a trial and error experience. Things bump into you, as I've said before. It's a good material day. It's a good day to do business and work on the material plane. But you also have to be careful because things can go wrong, and those things ultimately can lead to discovery. On the 10th, the Sun then moves up into the fourth line, so into the opportunist line of the 53 at 8:08 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, where the Sun is described as assuredness, exalted, the ability to maintain the strength of one's individuality in complex, often awkward situations that ensure continued security and development. The pressure to maintain one's individuality in confused beginnings. Detrimented, the persistent difficulty with embarrassing and awkward situations where normal emotional reactions may prove detrimental. Individual pressure for beginnings that creates awkward and sometimes embarrassing situations. Fourth line days, again, in the line of the opportunist, we've got the themes of friendship, companionship, of networking. Fourth line days are great for social interaction. People are more open to networking, to being friendly and social. And then also on the 10th, Mercury moves from the 15 to the 52. Mercury, again, as we said before, is about the messenger of gods. It's about communication. So what might be communicated with Mercury in the 52? I'd expect to hear people talking about feeling pressure to focus. This is the gate of inaction, keeping still, mountain, temporary and self-imposed inaction for the benefit of assessment. And Mercury in the first line of the 52 is think before you speak. Exalted, the pause that is so profound that it leads to silence. The pacification of energy that leads to stillness. Detrimented, speaking first and living with the consequences afterward. Energy that cannot be stilled. And then on the 11th, the Sun moves into the fifth line, the heretic line of the 53 at 7:44 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. The Sun in the 53-5 is described as assertion, exalted, the underlying, often psychic recognition of the intrinsic values of development, that even in periods of isolation has the assertiveness to maintain direction. Its very power garners continued support even from those who are basically oppressed. the pressure to recognize the value of development and the energy for beginnings regardless of circumstances. Detrimented and over assertiveness rather than applied to maintaining support in the face of opposition and isolation may actually strengthen opposing forces by its attitude, where the energy for beginnings attracts the very forces that can abort them. And as we talked about before, the fifth line is about projection. It's with all the themes that we could go along with that as being suspicion, universalization, paranoia, projection, and seduction, all being themes. So we talked about those earlier in the video. So no matter what the energies that are conditioning you during the week, just remember that this is an experience is about being a passenger that's riding in a vehicle driven by the magnetic monopole. So enjoy the scenery. Let the vehicle take you where you need to go through using your strategy and authority. Every day is a blessing, no matter what the dramas that beckon to distract us. We're all here giving the performance of a lifetime on this world stage. I like to think that it's worth taking some time to observe the play, observe your movie, as well as acting your part by remembering you're a spiritual being that's having a human experience. I want to thank you for checking out New World Birth. The next segment of the weekly neutrino forecast will be on July 12th. Of 2015. It should be available by the 11th, when we'll continue to look at the influence of the heavenly bodies as they transit the sky and the hexagrams of the I Ching. You can check us out on Facebook, Blogger, or YouTube, as there are New World Birth presences in all of those places. And I encourage you to share this information as videos or as text as widely as you choose. And I invite you to contact me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com if you've got any questions or wish to schedule a reading. And if you've been thinking about getting a reading, please contact me. I'd love to provide you a reading during these uncertain times. You'll need to be able to either call me in Maine in the USA or connect with Skype to receive your reading. We're also accepting donations to keep these reports freely available. And again, contacting me at newworldbirth@yahoo.com is the way to find out about how to make a donation or get a reading. The readings I offer tend to be pretty epic. They often last at least 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, sometimes 4 hours. What can I say? Predictor. Don't quite know when enough is enough. And there are 3 different options. But what I like about the readings I offer that are completely different than anyone else's is I use human design to talk about who the person is, just like a character description in a play or a movie. But then I use the astrology transits to talk about what are the scenes and acts of that movie or play, which gives us a real nice holistic view of who the actor is, who you are in the experience. What are the things that are going on in the environment? And then if we were writing a play or a movie, the lines of the character are always going to be their strategy and authority. So it's really a great way of using the information available to give you a nice description of who you are and what are the current events or potentials that are coming up for you. As always, I'm blessed that you've taken the time to connect with my passion for all these ancient mysteries and their application to our journey during this incarnation. The light in me honors the light in you. Namaste, in Lakesh, and as Ra would say, love yourself. And as always, I am greatly I'm appreciative that you've connected with what we're offering here at New World Birth, and look forward to connecting with you in the future in a reading or a video or through a question on email or Facebook or whatever. Anyway, you are a blessing. So thank you.